Okay, everybody, and good evening. I'm so sorry we had a little trouble there. Maybe some of you have waited, perhaps. Maybe others of you have fled. I'm very sorry. Suddenly the stream disappeared, and it took a little while to get it back, and hopefully it will stay. Hopefully it will stay. Well, I'd like to welcome you to our triangles meditation. I am substituting for Tuya this evening, and I think tomorrow morning we'll be doing Shambhala. That'll be a Zoom work, and the next evening looks like the reappearance of the Christ. We'll have to see, but there will be a broadcast at 6 p.m. But tomorrow morning is Zoom on Shambhala, and now we're going to think about triangles. This morning we had, excuse me as I go through the slides that I normally would go through in the pre-music, which you didn't hear this time. I'm still getting myself a little bit adjusted. So this is a type of activity which in a way emanates from the Atmic plane. I think the Tibetan supervises it from that high a level, and it has so much behind it. It has the flowing of multifarious energies that we can access at different times to good effect. But the work itself, in its basic form, and that is the form in which we have to work, is quite simple. It has that quality of love or goodwill. That's something that average humanity, average non-aspiring humanity can understand. And it has the quality of light and goodwill. Those triangles of light maybe are a little bit more difficult for the average non-aspiring person to understand, but eventually if they begin to use this triangle's work, they will find themselves integrated into a network which is reinforced by very high sources, by their own soul, because the soul is oftentimes called the triangle, and by the spiritual triad, another triangle, and by the monad, another triangle, and the great beings themselves in Shambhala, the Buddhas of activity, stand behind the whole thing, and in this esoteric work they are ready for planetary emergencies. Whether humanity survives in its present form is sometimes a question, but the planet, as the base of the spine's center of the solar logos, must survive, even if humanity has to be started again from the beginning to see if there might not be raised up the proper kind of plan-integrated humanity. Well, I don't think it will come to that. There is a lot of protection, but we also must learn to obey the occult injunctions to use certain techniques which will help to guarantee that the triangle will descend into the square. Some of you, have been in the Masonic Lodge, and some of you have seen parades of Masons and so forth. And their apron looks like the letter M. They have shown that to the public. And that means the triangle has flipped over and descended into the square. Now, for every one of us, that is the symbol of our integration into a spiritual, soul-infused way of life. That's what we want to achieve, and that's what we want to help many of those who are on the borderland of transition from dogmatism to something better. We want to help them achieve that too. So I think the triangles can be a very attractive, appealing way of relating to those with whom you wish to share the goodwill and the illumination. And eventually, the time will come, and it's not yet, when there will be an activation of triangles that carry the will to good. So it would be beneficial if each one of us could have at least one triangle, maybe a few. Some people make it quite a project and have many that they go through every day, and use the great invocation to do so. So that's all I'm going to say right now after such a foundering beginning. I hope maybe a few of you are still here. And and we're going to begin our meditation. And let's let the light in, as if we breathe in the white light of the soul, whether sometimes we consider it white for purification, sometimes kind of an orangey yellow for the presence of the solar angel. Here we'll breathe in the white light. And we'll realize we're entering into kind of an invocative activity, hoping to evoke the higher agencies, the soul, and those triangles above. We're entering into the ABC of the science of invocation. And the triangles of goodwill may be easier to understand. They depend for their strength upon the depth of feeling with which we imaginatively construct these triangles. I guess sometimes you can sit with your triangle members and do that in person, but more likely it's done with your creative imagination, and the triangles of light depend upon the strength of will. Their vitality depends upon our strength of will. And the Tibetan tells us, and it should mean something quite esoteric to us, that it is a project which is so close to my heart he says. So we know that he is deeply invested in it. We may not know exactly what he means when he talks about the Master's heart. But in any case, it comes from deep within the ashram. And there is that stage of discipleship that is known as within the Master's heart. And to think that such great beings as the Buddhas of activity, who were planetary logoi in the previous major solar system, and are working sacrificially now with the Lord of the world, Sanat Kumara, to think that they are deeply involved in supervising these triangles is quite an exalted thought. These Buddhas summarize, we're told, in a peculiar sense, the transmuted essence of the previous solar system in which intelligent activity was the goal. So they represent intelligent will, intelligent love, and purer form of active intelligence, all of it intelligence, all of it applicable to the different kingdoms upon our planet. We're on a planet that now has to be motivated by love, just the way activity in the solar system is motivated by love. So they form a deeply, we're told, deeply esoteric triangle. We ponder that. Slowly we are building the Antakarana. The Antakarana is triangular itself, even though we're given a straight line method by the Tibetan for reaching from the personal world into the triadal world. And we ponder this amazing statement that the Antakarana is in reality the linking thread between the head center of Sanat Kumara and his heart center. And immediately we begin to realize that the hierarchy must be involved, it being the planetary heart center. And there will be then also, because humanity is working on its own Antakarana, a a group antikarana between the kingdom of souls and the world of human beings. That is slowly being developed, and our triangle work, as uplifting as it may be on the individual level, has a planetary significance. So we're breathing in the white light, we're drawing in that light, the light of the soul, and the light of the triad, if we can, via the antikarana. And we sound internally the Om 3 times, outwardly silent but internally sounding. And then we attempt this exercise that Master Decay gave to one of his more advanced students. And he says, I would ask you for a few minutes each morning prior to doing the group meditation to rest quietly back in your chair or bed and, closing your eyes, link up with your soul and with me, your friend. You will create a triangle of light between your soul, your head center, and myself. Fix and hold this triangle firmly in your consciousness through the power of the creative imagination. See the triangle next as a solid triangle of light and not just an outline. This orangey yellow light. Visualize the base of the triangle on the mental plane, where Master DK works, and where dwells and works your soul. Oh. The lower apex of the triangle touches the top of your head. Now, see pouring down via the triangle a stream of light, golden orange light, orange in color and not white. Oh. And see this flooding your whole body. And then rest back and in that light and bathe in it as you would bathe in the waters of the sea. See it permeating every part of your physical equipment, and let it do its work without your having any definite idea as to what should be accomplished. The rest of the activity, he says, is in my hands, and you can safely leave it to me. This exercise will aid you in handling your life problem and your service until such time as you enter into that light wherein consciousness awakens, free from the bonds of flesh. The blessing of your co-disciples is upon you, and yours on them. Now, after we have reached a poised stage and holding the consciousness steadily in the mind and not in the head, contact the spiritual triplicity, which is that which, quote, hovers over the square and radiates the energy of light into this waiting field of active thought. And the result will be that we will possess the mind held steady in the light of the soul. And now, the mantram of the will, which especially helps us with the triangles of light. In the center of the will of God, I stand. Naught shall deflect my will from His. I implement that will by love. I turn towards the field of service. I, the triangle divine, work out that will within the square and serve my fellow men. Now, we start to contact our triangle's members. To be aware of our triangles and how they become etherically more living all the time as we participate in the network with the great invocation and participate in the vitalization of our global network of triangles. We start with the premise that energy follows thought. Focus on our own triangle or triangles, and we call upon our triangle group members by name internally and with love, and we keep some moments of silence as we do this, visualizing the love and goodwill and the light passing between yourself and the members of your triangle and triangles, and we'll have some quiet as we do this. Christ has given us these words: "A new commandment I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you also must love one another." And we feel this essentially second ray energy of love and light changing the square-like planetary etheric field into a field of triangles. light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. We link up our triangle with or triangles, our little network, with the global network of triangles, and with the three Buddhas of activity, a triangle with Sanat Kumara at the very center. All over the world, the triangles network is growing stronger, and our little network, even if it's just one triangle, is integrated into this larger network. And under the eye of the Buddhas and of the Lord of the world in Shambhala, that's how deeply esoteric this whole process is. These three Buddhas, able in times of emergency to energize the triangle network for the protection of humanity and even of the planet. Now we will focus on the great invocation, which we pronounce aloud when we do our triangles work.
Point of light
Now, the stage of manifestation. We see the global network of golden triangles covering the entire planet. And we endeavor to realize the factual nature. It's real. The factual nature of this great living spiritual organism, which constantly substands and purifies and inspires world affairs. We see it growing as a great vital reality, and by the very force of its interior life eventually externalizing itself. We visualize many, many triangles. The old story goes 100,000 or so living triangles functioning within the square-like etheric field of the body of Earth and transmuting it into triangles so that it becomes truly an outwardly sacred planet just as it is inwardly. Humanity, a sacred planet, humanity redeemed upon the sacred earth. Now very consciously we sound the sacred word 3 times for each of the 3 aspects of divinity. We want to thank you, everybody, for your presence and your participation. It's an important activity, and of course, doing it in group, as we are now, can add some power to it. But on a daily basis, you can do it on your own, as many of us have done for many, many years. So we will close with the first great invocation, which calls for light and goodwill.